This investigation has pulled me in all directions.
I know my brother. I know he's innocent.
I've seen evidence suggesting Omar did kill Oki.
This guy was out of control. He's so capable of this.
But I've got big doubts about the main prosecution witness in this case.
BB's story is complete bullshit.
I've also seen evidence suggesting a serial killer murdered Oki.
Daniel Aristevo. He's a monster. He was a danger to women.
But I'm yet to be convinced about claims that the police set Omar up.
The boss has framed him, and they know it.
I don't see any evidence of that.
Now, there's only one place left to look.
I need to find these witnesses. It's the best chance I have of getting answers in this case.
Hi. Listen, what I was going to say to you is I'm in Bournemouth here. Why don't you meet me for a cup of coffee?
What day is it?
Today is Tuesday.
Yeah, it's a little bit of short notice for me at the minute. I've got bipolar and emergency unstable personality disorders. Are you free tomorrow?
Yeah. All right, see you then.
Okay, take care then, bye.
Bye, bye.
My producer and I have found our first witness from Omar's final trial. This woman testified about a drug-fueled sexual encounter she had with Omar and her girlfriend. The prosecution used this to show how Omar behaved on drugs.
Part of the prosecution's case was that Omar was sexually aroused when he was on cocaine. He stabbed Oki because she potentially refused to go back and party with him.
Emma doesn't want to show her face on camera.
And I was going to bring some crack because it gives me a boot, it wakes you up, but I can't be asked to fucking bring it all in.
She says she spends thousands of pounds a week on her drug addiction.
Yeah, talk to me.
Okay.
Tell me how you first met Omar.
I moved into a bedsit with in Bournemouth, and opposite was a well-known drug using house, and he was just one of the comings and goings of that house. He used to make everyone toast, and well, he wasn't top dog. I wouldn't say top dog because he wasn't like that, but yeah, he was one of the ones that everyone knew and wanted to talk to and that.
Tell me about the crack house.
And it's hard to explain. It's 24 hours on the go, chaotic, irrational behaviour, and people are talking shit in that corner, people are doing something in that corner, and it's no routine or structure.
What was Omar like when he took drugs? Was he aggressive?
Not to me. I didn't see him be aggressive. More like controlling, not aggressive, controlling.
When you went to court, what evidence did you give?
We had a foursome with Omar one night, and he was quite horrible to my partner, and she wanted to stop, but he just got overly excited. And Omar wouldn't stop for ages. She was really hurt. When someone goes a bit further than what you think they're gonna, you know, and it's a bit scary. But he did stop when he came around, and then took some more drugs, and then that was it. It was all right, carry on.
Do you think Omar was capable of killing Oki from what he did to your girlfriend?
You don't go around thinking, oh, that person's capable of killing someone because they've got a bit angry and excited. Anybody can do it. I don't know. I don't know.
What did you know about the case that you were testifying in?
It was like a rumour that they went out on the rob, was high on crack, robbed a girl, killed her, felt horny, shagged her in the back of the car, and fucking hell.
Do you know that Nick nor Omar ever raped Oki?
No.
No. Yeah. Do you know how she died? She was stabbed in the back.
For £9.12 or something.
No, she wasn't robbed either. Do you think it's crazy that your evidence was part of the evidence that got a man convicted?
At the time, no, because I thought that he'd raped that girl. But you're saying it didn't even happen like that. Why do we all think that then?
I don't know.
How many times she stabbed Lady? No, wasn't she?
3.
See?
3 times
I
in the
thought she
back.
stabbed a lot more than that as well. Yeah, I don't know. It's a bit mad. It's like how you're saying it now, it's going to do my head in. I'll have to look into it and stuff. But it was just, like, I suppose, Chinese whispers, I guess.
Meeting Emma has given me an idea of how unreliable many of the prosecution witnesses were in this case. Like her, most were serious drug addicts with chaotic lives and poor memories.
We're out door knocking. We're trying to find some of the prosecution witnesses that gave evidence against Omar.
Many have extensive criminal records and have dropped out of society.
Hi. I'm looking to track down a girl called Amanda.
Finding them isn't easy.
I'm sorry, like, I have to ask these questions without paying you, because that means that I'm paying you to say what I want you to say.
Persuading them to talk on camera is even harder.
We are very happy to come and have a chat with you and talk about how we could do it. I mean, I'm very happy to film you anonymously.
But we have an unexpected breakthrough with a witness called Leanne Mayers. She is serving a 12-year sentence for assaulting a man for his prescription drugs. Her mum agrees to talk to us. That's quite a big deal because Leanne has known Omar since she was 13. But she told the police and the court that Omar was carrying knives back then and that she thought he was capable of murder. Leanne's mum says her daughter started talking to her about Omar's case a couple of years after he was convicted of the murder.
Oh, this is a hidden bit of your garden. Yeah. Do you spend a lot of time out here?
She will only talk on condition that we disguise her face.
She must have been about 8 or 9 then. A little bit further on up here. 14, 15. Still fresh-faced. I mean, that's another one of her there, but she was actually on heroin then.
Leanne became a drug addict aged 15, and her mum says she now has around 75 criminal convictions.
That's her now.
Was this taken in prison?
In prison, yeah.
She looks healthy.
Yeah. We're just making an effort now to, while she's in prison, to put everything right, and dealing with the past is part of it.
One of the reasons I wanted to talk to you was because Leanne went to court and gave evidence against Omar.
Leanne's mum has never seen her daughter's statements, which were used at Omar's trial.
I wanted you to remember. She made this statement in 2003, nearly a year after Oakey's murder.
Right. That is definitely not true.
What is it?
That she was visiting me when she heard about the murder. Leanne was so far down the drug route then. There was no visits. I can be specific about that. Do you know, I don't...
Leanne's most crucial piece of evidence was that she saw Omar with a 6-inch knife, similar to the one that's thought to have killed Oakey.
The knife thing here, she said the police kept saying to you, are you sure you didn't see a knife that was so-and-so inches long and with a such and such blade? And she said, no, that's completely, it's not what I saw. She said, but they just kept on and on like this. She said, and she felt, well, they were definitely trying to get her to say it was the murder weapon. Police used to go on, what if it's one of your sisters next with Omar? You know, there was just a lot of pressure, I think, on her to conform. And there's going to be good reasons to keep the police happy because, you know, she might be caught doing something and be let off for it, and it just seems to be how it worked.
So when you spoke to Leanne about the case, what did she tell you?
She didn't have very good words about the police officer involved. I think she said, oh, that wanker. She told me that the police officer involved, she said, oh, Mum, he'd taken me to school drugs and let me use heroin in the toilets of the courtroom before and after giving evidence.
Heroin?
Yeah. So how reliable can that evidence be?
Did you think Leanne was part of something that led to her wrongful conviction?
Yes, I think Leanne and the people that she hung around with, then every single one would be capable of doing what Leanne did and lying in court. That's their life. Every time she's talked to me, I've never been in any doubt that if it was my son, I wouldn't have been happy with the conviction. I would be so upset. Someone like my daughter can put someone in prison.
Your mother is always your biggest supporter, your biggest defender. And if Leanne Myers' mother says that she's telling lies and can't be trusted, then I think you've got to listen to that.
Since the last time I spoke to you, I've been writing to Leanne Myers in prison, and she's come back to me. And she's telling me that the knife she actually saw Omar with was the size of a penknife,
right,
and not the description that she gave in her statement. And she's also adamant that she told lies in court.
I mean, that's a big statement. And it's a big thing for somebody to say they've actually told lies and told lies in evidence in court. She must know how significant that is, that's quite serious. It could be that she's telling the truth now.
You know, she also claims that the police encouraged her to change the description of the knife.
Okay.
To match the one that killed Oki. And she's claiming that the police allowed her to buy heroin on several occasions, and one of those was on the way to court to give evidence against Omar.
I would be a bit more sceptical about those sort of suggestions. So maybe we should try and just to get some kind of insurance for herself. It could just be an effort to justify why she lied in court. But I'd want to investigate it further, without a doubt.
There are 8 witnesses I especially want to find. These addicts all supported parts of BB's account of the night Oki was killed. I discover that 2 of these witnesses are dead.
Just give me 5 minutes with her. I'm not bringing trouble to your door.
One refuses to talk to me.
It's so frustrating.
Some prove impossible to find.
These people just wreck lives. Just walked out and left her after taking a load of heroin and abusing her.
Finally, I managed to track down an address for one.
So she's in there?
She's in there.
At number 5, okay.
She's important because she lived in the crack house BB claimed Omar visited right after killing Oki. This witness said that she saw Omar there that night, cleaning himself up.
And she tells the police that Omar came into her flat, her room that night in the crack house, without a shirt on, washes his hands. She thinks she sees blood. She's right smack in the middle of it. We just got to talk our way inside and see if she'll talk to us. I didn't even think I was getting through the front door. That's probably one of the hardest doors I've hit. She's hostile and she's suspicious.
So what happened?
Well, she's standing by what she said in court. She's standing by the washing of the hands and the shirt being off and Omar asking her for another top. But she also told me something else that conflicts with BB's account of that night. She remembers the night because she says she injected Omar and that he passed out and that she thinks he spent the night with her. That's different to what BB said. She said they left the crack house soon after they arrived. And it's making me wonder if this witness has confused the night of the murder with another night that Omar might have been in the crack house.
The witnesses who put Omar in the crack house with BB on the night of the murder were at the heart of the case against him.
Hi, I'm looking for John Kelly.
Most only provided statements months after the murder, and I want to know why.
What did you see? Can you tell me that again?
That's 100%. Bye.
I managed to persuade a witness who provided one of the most detailed accounts of that night to speak to me on camera.
So Joan Sheridan is the owner of the crack den. She says that on that night Omar comes in and he's covered in claret.
Blood.
Blood.
Joan Sheridan's a very important witness. She testified that Omar was in the crack house that night with blood on him, looking for a change of clothes. Now, I believe she was crucial in getting him convicted in that third trial. She's in the early stages of dementia, but her family say that she's fit to be interviewed. How bad was your habit?
Bad. Selling it was bad.
You had as much as you wanted then, really?
Yeah.
So your memory back then wouldn't have been good?
No, not good at all. But I remember about Omar.
In your statements, you say that Omar had blood on his hands. He was in your apartment, your flat that night. He asked to change his shirt. Was that true?
No, wasn't true. To know nothing about it until the police turned up on my door.
So, why did you tell the police? Can you remember?
They was like, he's done it, he's definitely done it now. Come on, Joan, you're a mother, you've got daughters. Imagine what her mother and father are feeling like. So you just...
Why did your evidence start to change? Your first two statements, you remember nothing. In the last three statements you make to police, you say that Omar was in the house that night. Why did your evidence start to change?
They must have been selling me. Wasn't he? I can't remember Omar being in the flat that I was in.
Do you think the police knew that you were telling them lies?
Yeah, of course they did. They put half of the words in my mouth. Come on, ask me some questions. Stop looking at me like that.
How do you feel now, knowing that you
helped to put a man in prison? I feel terrible. I feel disgusted in myself. You know what I mean? Someone should not be locked up for something they never done. I've regretted the day I ever stood up in that court and told lies, practically told lies on that lad. Because he is a lovely lad, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know any bad things about him.
I know a lot of people will watch this and they'll say, how do we know you're telling me the truth now?
But that's up to you, and that's up to them. They can think what they like. I know what I'm saying is the truth, and I know what I said back then was I got told to say.
Has this weighed on your conscience?
Oh, yeah. Thinking that poor lad sitting in that prison cell for something he never done. I'm paying for my misdemeanours now, paying for it now. Can't sleep, have nightmares, have pain. You know, you don't get away with things in this life. You get your comeuppance one way or the other.
Like all of the witnesses in this case, her memory is shaky. And she's very vague about details around the case. And I don't know how much weight we can give her allegations that the police put words in her mouth. But there's one thing that she's very clear on. She's adamant about the fact that she stood in court and she told lies about Omar. I've spoken to several of the witnesses in this case. Some of them have stuck to their evidence and they're standing over their stories. But there is just so many contradictions, and two witnesses have completely retracted their evidence from what they said in court. But it's not only that. These two witnesses had their statements taken by one particular junior officer.
That's got to be looked at. You really want to check that and see what is the extent of this.
I mean, that same officer also took statements from two other witnesses who'd previously told the police nothing. Either they didn't know anything or they weren't willing to get involved. But suddenly, when this junior officer goes to speak to them months after, their memories suddenly become clearer and they start to provide evidence against Omar. Do you think the pattern is concerning?
Definitely. I think the pattern is something that draws attention to itself. And it's something that you quite legitimately would ask a question of. There might be a straightforward answer, but there might not be. It's concerning and it's got to be looked at. It just reinforces everything that I feel about the whole conviction being unsafe.
The burden of proof for any criminal conviction is beyond reasonable doubt. But at the end of my investigation, I've been left with so many doubts about Omar's case. I want to ask BB about all of the inconsistencies in her story, but I can't find her. And I've serious concerns about the way Dorset police investigated this case. But they've declined to be interviewed. They have, however, given me a statement.
Now, basically, what they're saying to me is that their investigation into Oakie's murder was thorough and very complex, and that the decision to charge Omar Benguit with murder was taken by the Crown Prosecution Service. They pointed out that Omar was convicted by a jury unanimously in 2005, and that his case has gone to the appeal courts twice. They say that the Court of Appeal heard evidence to suggest that there was an alternative suspect, Restivo, and questioned the reliability of the main prosecution witness, BB. They point out that senior judges concluded that the conviction was safe. Dorset Police also said that they fully support the officers involved in the case and thanked them for their diligence and professionalism. They point out that there was no allegations of wrongdoing made during those appeals.
I also wrote separately to the junior officer we have concerns about, but he didn't reply.
So I'm on my way to meet Amy for the final time, to tell her how we've got on in the investigation and what we found. My biggest concern is that she hopes that we find something that will get her an appeal and get Omar out of prison. You know, the bar is extraordinarily high to get anyone out of prison.
I began this case, as you know, believing that Omar could be guilty of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's fair to say that I can understand why you've concerns about this case. So we have found inconsistencies and contradictions that raise serious questions about the safety of Omar's conviction, okay? And we've found two witnesses in particular that have retracted their evidence, and I want to show you what they've said, okay?
Mm-hmm. Leanne and the people that she hung around with, then every single one would be capable of doing what Leanne did and lying in court. And she felt, well, they were definitely trying to get her to say it was a murder weapon. And the police used to go on, what if it's one of your sisters next with Omar? So how reliable can that evidence be?
Wow. Wow. It's what I have been saying all along.
And Leanne wrote us a letter.
Oh, wow.
And she asked me to give that to you as well. There's a letter in there for Omar.
I've carried around guilt and questions for years. Omar, I'm so sorry, babe. This is all I've been wanting, is the truth. And her saying, I'm sorry for the, you know, what I did to you.
Tyrion. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay?
Yeah. Because Dave was like, he's done it, he's definitely done it now. Come on, Joe, you're a mother, you've got daughters.
Jesus Christ.
I regretted the day I ever stood up in that court and told lies.
How do you feel now, knowing that you
helped to put a man in prison? I feel terrible. I feel disgusted in myself. Can't sleep. Have nightmares. Have pain. You know, you don't get away with things in this life. You get your comeuppance one way or the other.
To 16 years for something he hasn't done. 16 years.
This is what we've been searching for. This is what we've been searching for, the truth. Because we know what the Dorset police did to our brother.
Well, we don't know that for definite. Claims that the Dorset police acted in some wide conspiracy or framed Omar. We haven't found enough evidence for you to say something like that. What we have is a suspicious pattern of behaviour surrounding one particular officer that we would ask that be looked at because of the way the evidence was gathered and how it began to change. But that's one officer, not a force.
There's always one rotten egg within.
And again, that is something that we can't even go so far to say, but we would say that the memories of the addicts as they returned surrounded the statement taken of one officer. So we would ask that would be looked at. But you still face a struggle to get Omar out of prison. The bar for new evidence is very high.
We know.
You've been there before.
Twice,
so,
yeah. Yeah, so third time lucky, eh?
You know, at the end of the day, a woman was murdered. Yeah, let's not forget about that. Yeah, I mean, her family must be more devastated than us. But, you know, to actually take an innocent man's life, it doesn't make it right for...
It's not justice, is it?
It's not, yeah, because at the end of the day, it's just the truth for both sides, our family and her family. There is somebody out there that has committed this murder.
And they know that they did it.
I know that some work has been done with Restivo. I think some further work could be done to satisfy yourself one way or another.
Or another, yeah.
Okay? So obviously the fight is not going to stop here for you.
No, God, absolutely not. And what we've just seen and watched just now has given us a little bit more ammunition. No, it doesn't stop. The fight continues.
Great. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Will do.
Bye.
Will do.
I can't imagine what it must feel like for Amy and her family. If it was my brother that had been convicted of murder on the words of some of the addicts that I've been speaking to, I'd be devastated and completely disillusioned with the justice system. And I admire her strength and resilience. And I hope some of the work that we've done can get her the answers that she needs.